Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley. Thanks for joining me today for this month's Ellen Hudson In Touch newsletter. Today we're going to do a little rainbow embellishing, and I am going to be using this new stamp set from Pretty Pink Posh. It's a part of their November release, and it is called the Sparkle Dot Pattern Stamp Set. Now there's a lot you can do with these. They stamp these little dots and they're perfect for filling in with Nuvo drops or sequins, but you can also use that little solid dot there to kind of fill in those dots, or you can add some more of your own dots and create your own pattern with that open dot that they provide. And then there's also the lines. Now today I'm going to be using the rainbow stamp, but there is also a star and a heart and a leaf or kind of a petal that you can use for a flower. And just to kind of get my feet wet with the stamp set, I'm stamping it onto some Neenah Solar White cardstock, and I'm just using a super light gray. In fact, you can't even hardly see it right now. I'm going to double stamp it so that you can see it, but I try not to use a stark black ink with this because I feel like I don't want it kind of showing out of the side of my embellishments. Now, I didn't find that to be a problem per se, but I am using inks that are on the lighter side. Now, to embellish these, I'm going to be using some Nuvo drops and also some Pretty Pink Posh sequins, but you could do so much with this stamp set. I think it would also make a really fun pattern for stitching. But I have my rainbow of Nuvo crystal drops laid out here. I have glossy white, I have red berry, I have carnation pink, ripened pumpkin, dandelion yellow, green apple or apple green, one of the two, Caribbean Ocean, midnight blue, and crushed grape. Now for my sequins, I'm using some Pretty Pink Posh iridescent sequins in the 4mm size, and I'm starting with Strawberry Burst, Sunshine Glow, Peridot Mist, Ocean Spray, and Lavender Moon, and that creates my entire rainbow of sequins and Nuvo drops. Now let's talk about a rainbow for a minute. It doesn't always have to start with red. Here is what I consider to be a more modern rainbow with the pink and kind of the teal blue, but if you want a more traditional rainbow, you could absolutely substitute it with the primary red and that midnight blue. Now, both of them make for a beautiful rainbow. You can see just by switching out those two colors, I have a lot of options here. I'm leaving all the other colors the same, but by changing those two colors, I can create a completely different feel for my rainbow. Now, to place my sequins today, I'm going to be using this Marvy Yukaita jewel picker, and I think that is the funniest name. I don't know. I would have named it something different probably, but this is the jewel picker. It has two ends. They're kind of sticky. The thing I like about this is that it doesn't leave a residue on your sequins once you place them. I had been using the We Are Memory Keepers Quick Stick tool, but I feel like that green gooey stuff was kind of left behind on my project in the end, so I wasn't loving that. Now, I will say on these first projects that I'm just kind of playing with, I did have a little bit of a learning curve with this jewel picker. I started with the bigger end. I moved to the smaller end here. I preferred that for these smaller sequins. And you can see I'm kind of having to use my craft pick to kind of hold them down. Now, I found that if I put a little bit bigger glue drop there and I kind of twist as I pull off, that I got really good results. But it was definitely a learning curve to kind of figure this all out. But in the end, I ended up really loving this for placing all of these sequins. Now, I'm going to work my way through this rainbow here. And like I said, these are just little projects that I kind of did to familiarize myself with the stamp set. I thought I would be stamping these on white cardstock. I didn't end up liking that, so I just set these aside to add to another project later. Now, I'm not showing you the entire process of filling up this entire rainbow. I'm going to do that later on my final projects. But this, I just kind of wanted to talk you through the process. I'm using those circles as a guide for where to place my glue and my sequins. You can absolutely do this with a larger sequin. Just know that there's not going to be as much space. They might be like kind of touching on the edges. So if you want a more solid looking rainbow, maybe you want to use the 6mm size sequins instead. Now, I will tell you that the Nuvo drops and this stamp set are perfect. They go together like peanut butter and jelly. I I don't know what to say. This was a much quicker process than placing the sequins, although I did find that once I really got the hang of my jewel picker tool, I was able to go much faster with the sequins as well. So while this seems like it's going to take a really long time, it really wasn't too bad. But remember, with the Nuvo drops, you're going to want to allow those to dry, and I even let them dry overnight. So I'm just filling in my rainbow here. I started with carnation pink, and then I went on to ripened pumpkin. And in this rainbow, I used the yellow, the green, and the blue. In future rainbows, I skipped the yellow and added pink, orange, green, blue, and purple. So there's not enough for all of those colors. You have to skip one color. And I felt like the most bang for my buck was skipping out on that yellow and adding the purple to my rainbow instead. So let's get into our actual project now. I have my rainbow stamp mounted on a stamp block, and I am going to ink it up in some archival ink in the watering can color. And I'm just going to stamp it off to the side. This one I kind of did offset. The others I'll do in the center. And once I have that stamped down, I'll just go ahead and re-ink and stamp in the center. Now, I did this a few times because I'm doing sequins and Nuvo drops with these. And this vellum is the Essentials by Ellen 40-pound vellum. I love this vellum, and I have it cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so just an A2 size. Now, in hindsight, I might have used a stitched rectangle to cut these down, and I think that would have added a beautiful touch to the edge of this project. But I didn't think of that, so I wasn't about to die cut these after those Nuvo drops have dried because I didn't want to like flatten them out in any way. Now, when you're applying these to your project, get the product coming out of the tip and allow the product to touch the paper, not the actual nozzle of the bottle, and then pull straight up. I did find that some of the colors were a little thinner in consistency and easier to create the perfect drop. If you're finding that they're a little bit thicker, slow down. You're going to get better results. So you can see this is going rather quickly. I have it sped up, obviously, but it is a really quick process, and I think the results you get are wonderful. So let's move on to the sequins here. I'm adding some multimedia matte finish into those circles, and you're going to see I really got the hang of this jewel picker tool, and I am just going to move right through these sequins. Then I'll add adhesive to my next row, and I'll move on to those sunshine yellow sequins. And like I said, I am just using the smaller end of this jewel picker. You could use whichever end. I just found that the larger end was holding on to the sequins a little bit much. And you can see I have my craft pick there because I will go back in, and some of these that were a little bit askew, I will go ahead and flatten those out. You know how sequins can kind of turn up on their edge a little bit? I wanted them flat, so I went back in with my craft pick and just kind of flattened those out after each row. Now, I am moving through all of the colors here, and on these second couple rows, I went ahead and added adhesive to both rows. I was finding that I was able to move fast enough that my adhesive wasn't going to dry, so I added it to 2 rows at once. And I'm going to finish off my rainbow here with this ocean spray sequin, and then also the lavender moon sequin. Now, the sequins probably don't need as much time to dry as the Nuvo drops, but just to be safe, I went ahead and allowed this all to dry overnight, and I came back and put together my cards the next day. That way I could just be really sure that everything was secure. I wasn't going to mess anything up because I am putting some time into these, and I want them to be perfect in the end. Now, I'm using these iridescent sequins. If you want more bold color, you could use the solid color sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. There's so many colors available. Now, while these dry, I have them set way far away from me because if they're anywhere near me, I'm going to ruin them. So they're way far away where I can't even hardly even see them. And I'm going to work on some of the other elements of my card. I have these cloud dies here. These are from the Essentials by Ellen Silver Linings die set. I love that. I've never used the clouds before, but here we go. I'm cutting them out of both some Nina Solar White cardstock in the 80-pound and some of the Essentials by Ellen Vellum. I'm running those through at the same time so that I'm cutting both of those layers at once. And I am going to end up cutting clouds out of this entire half sheet of cardstock because I don't want to run out. And anything that I have left over, I just keep in with my die set, and then I will have them for a future project. Now I also have the Sunshine Word die from the Essentials by Ellen line, and I'm going to cut this out of some gold glitter cardstock. Now to get a great cut, I'm going to actually switch to my precision base plate for the bottom cutting plate of my sandwich, and then I'm going to run that through my die cut machine, and you'll see that I got a great cut on the first run through with this glitter cardstock. It can be a little tricky if you don't have the precision base plate and you're having a hard time getting that clean cut. Try adding a shim or two of cardstock to your sandwich. Now I have the Warm Fuzzies stamp set here, and this says sending warm fuzzies, this little sentiment that I'm taking off here. But I just wanted my sentiment to say sending sunshine. So I have my scissors placed between those two words, and I'm just cutting off the sending so I can use it by itself. Now don't worry, my stamps have never complained out loud to me about this, so I'm assuming that it doesn't hurt them. I can always mount them back together on the same block if I want to use it as it was originally intended, but this is a great way to get more out of your stamps. So I am going to stamp that sending onto this banner. I've cut it using some Essentials by Ellen, and I used my jet black StazOn ink so that it would dry quickly. And I am going to adhere this glitter sunshine word to that banner, and I'm going to use my Zig 2-way glue pen for this. I like the Zig 2-way glue pen. Have I mentioned that? I just find it's really great for little things like this. So I'm going to pick it up with my tweezers, and I'm going to adhere it along the bottom portion of that banner. And as always, just so you know, I will have all of the products linked over at the In Touch blog, so you can check out all the products, and the featured products will be in the description at YouTube. Now at this point, everything's still drying, so I am using that rainbow that I created earlier on the white cardstock as my placeholder, and I'm just experimenting with placement and that sort of thing. And I'm going to go ahead and put together all my cloud clusters, all my sentiment banners, everything ready for the next day. And all I have to do is come back and adhere all of this together. And you'll see me come back on with a different sweater that's actually the same, just a different color. Now I wanted kind of a full puffy cloud here, so I just adhered a second cloud with the flat ends together on the back of this, and that when I turn this over, you'll see that I have like a kind of fluffy on both sides instead of the flat bottom cloud. So that's a great way to kind of combine these together and get a different look with these dies. And you can see I'm adding all of my adhesive to these cloud clusters that I'm creating as well, so that they'll be all ready for assembly on the next day. So once I have all of that put together, I'm going to go ahead and work on my card bases. Now my card bases are made out of the Essentials by Ellen linen cardstock. It's one of my favorites, and they are cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and then scored at 5 1/2 to create a top folding A2 size card. Now have you seen the Abstract Paint Strokes new stamp set from the Essentials by Ellen line? I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm going to stamp this onto my card base using some Altenew Mountain Mist ink. This is just going to kind of create the illusion of a sky in the background of my vellum. It was just kind of falling a little bit flat against the pure white background. So you'll see me come in and I'm double stamping some of these. I even added a few more, but I'm just holding this up with that vellum. It's still drying. So this is the sequin one. I wasn't about to touch those Nouveau ones, but I am just going to go ahead and hold that up, make sure I like it. And then I ended up going in and adding a couple of more of those paint swatches or paint swipes just to add a little bit more color and to fill out some of the areas. So here's the next day. Same sweater, different color. All of my Nouveau drops have dried. Those are the ones that I created just to play. And these are the ones that I created on vellum for my actual projects. And you can see I have all my card bases there. And now it's just a matter of assembling all these. So I'm just removing the backer from the foam adhesive that I had already applied to the back of these cloud clusters. And I'm going to place that on one end of my rainbow. And I'm allowing my banner to hang off of the edge. Now I did go back and trim these vellum pieces down to 4 by 5 1/4 so that they're just a bit smaller than my card base. And I'm going to adhere this cloud cluster onto the bottom here using just some tape runner adhesive. But that white cloud on top of the vellum cloud actually has a layer of foam adhesive between it. So I'm getting a lot of different depths and dimensions here. And that larger cloud I adhered kind of coming in from the top. Now, once I make sure that this is how I want it, I'm going to go ahead and take my scissors. I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to trim off the excess. This is a little bit more difficult than when you're working on cardstock because the cardstock has that nice firm edge you can put the scissor blade against. So just be careful that you're not trimming into your vellum base there. Now to adhere this entire panel onto my card base, I'm going to use some foam adhesive so that it kind of floats above all of that. I'm going to add some sparkling clear sequins in the 8, 6, and 4 millimeter sizes, and I'm just using my multi-matte medium for that. And when I get these placed on my card, rather than picking them up from a pile, I actually place them onto my card and then I can just tilt them up and add my adhesive behind them. So that's why I'm not using the jewel picker here in this case. Once I get all of my sequins adhered, I am going to go ahead and go back to each one of these cards, and I'm going to add a layer of glossy accents over the top of that glitter die cut word. I love to do this. It intensifies the shine of the glitter and just makes it pop that much more. And for the dots on my eyes, because I am too lazy to keep track of those little tiny tittles that go on top of the eye, I am going to use some gold stickles and I'm going to create my own little dots on top of the eyes. So there we have it, 3 projects featuring the new Pretty Pink Posh sparkle dot patterns. I only use the rainbow here, but you can see that you have a lot of options with all of the different shapes that are included in this stamp set. And I love the dimension. I feel like we should put a note on these saying that these aren't edible because they look like those little candy, are they called candy buttons that you pull off and you eat? So maybe we should place a warning on these. But there you have it, 3 fun cards. As always, I will have links to the products used in this project over at the In Touch blog, and I will have links to the featured products in the description at YouTube. Head on over to the In Touch blog because I'll have lots more still shots and information over there for you. All of these supplies can be purchased at ellenhudson.com. Thanks for stopping by, thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.